The first time Charlotte Mercer looked at him, she didn't see a father fighting to hold his world together. She saw a risk, a liability, a man who had no business standing in the glass tower of one of the most ruthless tech companies in Seattle. And when she finally spoke, her voice was calm, cold, and certain. "You won't survive a week with me." Those words should have crushed him. Instead, they became the quiet fire that kept Nathan Brooks standing. Before we step into Nathan's storm, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength of a parent's love, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs encouragement, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that even in the coldest rooms, the warmest hearts can still win. Nathan hadn't planned on becoming a single father at 32. He hadn't planned on sitting in a cramped apartment in Tacoma, Washington, at 2 in the morning, heating soup while helping his 6-year-old son Mason breathe through another asthma attack. He hadn't planned on losing his wife Hannah to a sudden aneurysm that tore through their lives like a silent tornado. But life doesn't ask for permission before it changes everything. After Hannah passed, the hospital bills swallowed their savings. Nathan had worked as a mid-level project manager at a small marketing firm, but grief made him slow, distracted. He missed deadlines, he forgot meetings. 3 months after the funeral, he was laid off. The official reason was performance decline. The real reason was that sorrow doesn't fit neatly into corporate productivity charts. For nearly a year, Nathan survived on freelance gigs, selling his car and skipping meals so Mason wouldn't have to. He would sit at their tiny kitchen table after Mason fell asleep and stare at job listings, feeling smaller with every rejection email. Employers wanted someone fully committed, available for late hours, flexible for travel. None of them asked if he was brave enough to carry his child's inhaler everywhere he went. Then he saw the listing for Mercer Innovations in Seattle. The company was legendary, cutting-edge AI software, billion-dollar clients, and a CEO known for being sharper than the skyline she worked beneath. Charlotte Mercer had built the company from a startup in her garage into a national powerhouse. Business magazines called her fearless. Former employees called her unforgiving. Nathan almost didn't apply, but the salary listed was more than double anything he'd seen in months. It meant stability, health insurance, a chance for Mason to join a better school. It meant breathing room. The interview felt like stepping into a storm. The Mercer Innovations headquarters towered over downtown Seattle, all steel and glass reflecting the gray sky. Inside, everything was pristine and fast-paced. Assistants moved like clockwork. Screens flashed data across walls. No one looked tired. No one looked distracted. Charlotte Mercer entered the conference room without introduction. She wore a charcoal suit, her dark hair pulled back tightly, her expression unreadable. She studied Nathan's resume like it was a puzzle she didn't quite respect. She didn't ask about his strengths first. She asked about the gap in his employment. Nathan didn't lie. He told her about Hannah, about Mason, about trying to balance freelance work and fatherhood. His voice never shook, but his hands did. Charlotte listened, but her eyes remained distant. When he finished, she leaned back and folded her arms. "This company doesn't slow down for anyone," she said. "We work nights. We work weekends. I expect total dedication. You won't survive a week with me." The room felt smaller. Nathan imagined Mason's sneakers with holes in the soles, the overdue rent notice folded in his jacket pocket. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply said that if she gave him 1 week, he would prove he could handle it. For reasons he didn't understand, she agreed. The first day nearly broke him. He was assigned to oversee a failing software integration project for a major client in San Francisco. The timeline was impossible. The team was demoralized. Half of them believed the project would collapse and take their reputations with it. Nathan worked like a man who had no choice but to succeed. He arrived before sunrise after dropping Mason at school and left only when the security lights flickered on. At night, he sat beside Mason's bed, answering emails on his phone, whispering reassurances about monsters under the bed while calculating budgets in his head. On Wednesday, Mason's school called, another asthma flare-up. Nathan felt the old panic rise like a tidal wave. He rushed out, ignoring the curious stares from colleagues. At the hospital, he held Mason's small hand, promising he'd always be there. His phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from the office. A critical server error. The client was furious. Charlotte was demanding answers. Nathan closed his eyes. For a brief moment, he imagined giving up, walking away, accepting that maybe she was right, maybe he couldn't survive this world. But as Mason slept peacefully after treatment, Nathan opened his laptop in the hospital waiting room. He called his team through video chat. He delegated tasks with clarity he didn't know he possessed. He restructured the rollout plan, identified a hidden coding bottleneck, and proposed a phased solution that reduced risk and bought them time. By Friday, the crisis had stabilized. The client agreed to the revised timeline. The team, once fractured, began to trust him. Charlotte watched all of this from a distance. She saw the timestamps on his emails, 2:14 a.m., 4:36 a.m. She saw the hospital Wi-Fi IP address attached to one of his logins. She said nothing. The week ended with a final presentation in the executive boardroom. Nathan stood before senior leaders, exhaustion etched into his face but determination burning in his eyes. He walked them through the new strategy, the cost savings, the projected recovery curve. When he finished, the room was silent. Charlotte finally spoke. "You kept the client," she said flatly. "You saved the contract." Nathan nodded, unsure if that was praise or simply fact. Then something shifted. Her voice softened, not much, but enough to be noticed. "You left on Wednesday without permission." He felt his chest tighten. "My son was in the hospital," he replied quietly. For the first time, Charlotte's expression cracked. She stared at the skyline beyond the window before speaking again. "My father missed my childhood because of work," she said, almost to herself. "He built companies. He never built memories." The room held its breath. She turned back to Nathan. "You survived the week," she admitted, "not because you worked the longest hours, but because you refused to choose between being a father and being a leader." That afternoon she called him into her office alone. The city stretched beneath them like a map of endless ambition. She offered him a permanent position, not just as a project manager, but as director of operations for client recovery initiatives. The salary was higher than the listing. Flexible scheduling was written into his contract. Remote days were guaranteed. A new family health plan would begin immediately. "You changed how this company sees strength," she told him. "I built this place on endurance. You reminded me it can also be built on empathy." Nathan walked out of that office feeling something he hadn't felt since before Hannah passed: hope. Months later, Mercer Innovations introduced a company-wide policy supporting working parents, including emergency leave flexibility and on-site childcare partnerships. Employees whispered that the CEO had softened. They didn't know that it wasn't softness, it was understanding. At home in Tacoma, Mason's laughter filled the apartment. Nathan no longer skipped meals. He no longer feared every unknown number on his phone. He still worked hard, but he worked with purpose, not desperation. And sometimes, when he passed Charlotte in the hallway, there was an unspoken respect between them. Two different kinds of strength recognizing each other. Before this story comes to an end, I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever been told you weren't strong enough, that you wouldn't last? Comment "I would survive" below if you believe resilience can change destinies. Because Nathan's story isn't just about corporate success. It's about redefining what survival looks like. It's about a father who refused to let grief define his future. It's about a leader who learned that compassion doesn't weaken authority, it deepens it. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a second to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who are silently fighting their own impossible weeks. In a world that often measures worth by hours worked and profits earned, sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is walk into the storm and refuse to let it take away who they are. And sometimes surviving the week is enough to change everything.